Confronted with two options, most people think that the most important thing to do is to make a choice between them. But in design, software or otherwise, it is not. The presence of two options is an indicator that you need to consider uncertainty in the design. Use the uncertainty as a driver to determine where you can defer commitment to details and where you can partition and abstract to reduce the significance of design decisions. If you hardwire the first thing that comes to mind, you are more likely to stuck with it, and the incidental decisions become significant and the softness of the software is reduced. One of the most simple and constructive definitions of architecture comes from Grady Booch. He says that all architecture is design, but not all design is architecture. And architecture represents significant design decisions that shape a system, and significance is measured by the cost of change. So, the effective architecture is the one that generally reduces the significance of design decisions, and an ineffective architecture will amplify significance. When a design decision can reasonably go one of two ways, an architect needs to take a step back. Instead of trying to decide between options A and B, the question becomes, how do I design so that the choice between A and B is less significant? The most interesting thing is not actually the choice between A and B, but the fact that there is a choice between A and B, and the appropriate choice is not necessarily obvious and stable. An architect may need to go in circles before becoming dizzy and recognizing the dichotomy. Standing at a whiteboard and debating options with a colleague, deadlocked over whether to try one implementation or another, casting doubt on the wisdom of a current implementation, all these things are symptoms of uncertainty. And you need to respond by figuring out what separation or encapsulation would isolate the decision from the code that ultimately depend on it. Without this sensibility, the alternative response is often rambling code trying to compensate for uncertainty with a multitude of speculative and general options. When response is made with arbitrary and unjustified confidence, a wrong turn is taken at speed and without looking back. There is often pressure to make decision for the decision's sake. This is where options thinking can help. When there is uncertainty over different paths a system's development might take, make the decision not to make a decision. Defer the actual decision until a decision can be made more reasonably based on actual knowledge, but not so late that it is not possible to take advantage of that knowledge. Architecture and processes are interwoven, which is a key reason why architects should favor development life cycles and architectural approaches that are empirical and elicit feedback. The architect can do this by using uncertainty constructively to divide up both the system and the schedule. Finally, remember that it is the job of an architect to use uncertainty as a driver.